Hello and welcome to my channel. I hope you're having a great day. Today, as always as we do on this channel, I'm going to be exploring a couple of ideas on growth, personal development and book summaries, and today I'm going to be looking at a book summary of one of really the greatest books that I've read on habits, which is Atomic Habits, which is written by James Clear. This book is done very well, and I think one of the reasons why I really enjoyed it compared to a lot of the books on habits is the approach in which he took. And in actual effect, James gave us a playbook on how to build habits like at a really fundamental part, like really small. Now, from what I remember from my chemistry or physics classes, that an atom is like the really smallest particles and we can't even see them with our naked eyes. And that's the argument that he takes when in relation to habits, where he says, instead of thinking of this big picture habits, or sometimes when you're trying to change, we like to go like the whole massive change, which is like big. But what if we actually just look at very small, minute, how if we were able to break down the habits into like very small little pieces and use that as the basis of changing. And one of the main things that really sticks out is the idea of compound interest. And we all know compound interest, which, you know, is one of the wonders of the world in effect. And some wise man spoke about how compound effect can take just really small things and make it so large. So in the book, he talks about how a 1% improvement on a daily basis is equivalent to 37% improvement of an annual basis. Now, just stop and think about that for a second. Like 1% ending up being 37%. But how easy is it to discount the 1% and say, oh, 1% doesn't make a difference? When in effect, if you scale it, I mean, if you go from 1 year 37%, imagine what it's going to be like in 5 years. Imagine what 10 years look like, 20 years. You get the picture. And a great example that I can even give about that is, think about this morning. I was doing some exercise and I was looking at the screen time that I've spent on a weekly basis, and I think on average I spend about 4 or 5 hours on my phone on different apps. Like, so this is inclusive of social media like Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, some websites and some applications and things that I'm interested in. And I actually don't remember where I sat down and 4 hours, like on an average day I was there, but somehow, you know, that small 2 minutes time that when I'm waiting in an elevator and I'm waiting for something, it just sort of compounds to about 4 hours. So that's the whole idea in this book about how little small things could actually be used in our advantage. And so he tried to look at it from ways in which we can use habits to change our life on a long-term basis, instead of being just like a one fixed pill where it's temporary. He tried to make it things, because as human beings we're changing. When we're in our younger age, there's certain ways in which we're doing certain things, and then as we grow older we start focusing on things. But the ideas that he has used in the book Atomic Habits are such that they are adaptable to any stage in life that you are. And the 4 things about the 4 habits which are based on the models of human behavior is, the first one is a cue, right? So for a habit to be formed, there's a cue. The second one is there's a craving, right? And then the third one is there's the actual response. And then the 4th thing is there's a reward. So there are 4 steps of habit is that there's a cue. So something triggers you see something, and then it develops into a craving. You start desiring that thing, you start wanting it based off the cue. And then the third thing, you respond to it, and our response is the habit. That's how you're acting towards the habit. And the 4th thing, the reward that you get, so the feeling of satisfaction. And in the book he then says, like, from the purposes of a habit modeling is to actually look and say, how can I make it obvious? So that's the cue, to say, okay, I want to set up a new habit, and in order to do that, how can I make it obvious? And he introduces the concept, which is taken from psychology, which is an implementation intention, to say, okay, you're making an intention in the future to say, as part of a cue, I want to introduce a new cue in the process of making a new habit. And the 7th thing that he brought up is habit stacking. So habit stacking is, maybe you already have a habit of eating lunch at 1 o'clock. So you're saying, okay, I already do this, but before I eat my lunch at 1 o'clock, I am going to do 10 push-ups, or I am going to do something, I'm going to read a chapter of a book, or I'm going to read 10 minutes of something. So you're stacking an existing habit to a new habit that you want you to do. So that becomes your cue. And then the next thing is, how can I make it attractive? So the craving is that part where we feel like, when we've seen something, now we want to do something about it. And then there's an idea that he brings in the book, which is temptation bundling, where you say, okay, I already have an existing temptation that I have. How can I add an additional thing? So it's like, oh, okay, I don't want to make some sales call. Maybe I'm a salesman or I'm a business, but I'm going to do the sales calls that I want to do. And after that, I'm going to watch 10 minutes of Sports Center, or I'm going to look at 10 minutes of Instagram. So that way I'm pairing the new thing and I'm bundling like temptation. That's the way that I took it to be. And then the second one is just joining a culture or a group or a tribe of people who are aligned with what you're doing. So you've got a new habit that you want to do. So maybe it's being part of a group class, for exercise and training. If it's a business community, you go and become part of Chamber of Commerce, and then you become to be with this tribe. And the more that you're around the people that you're trying to aspire to be, then it builds that part of you that wants to be part of that tribe. And then also creating a motivation ritual. And then the third one, in relation to the response, is how can I make it easy? And this is really a really key one, is you don't want to start implementing habits that are going to be too hard to keep, because remember, you want something that's automated. So you're thinking about, how can I reduce friction? So it's like, should I have chocolate cake in the fridge, or should I not have it? Because at that time when I'm going to feel like wanting it, I don't want to have it easily accessible. How am I priming my environment to set myself up to win? During that moment, that split-second decision of where I want, like, how am I, and then one of the greatest things that he talked about in the book is about using the 2-minute rule to say that, is this habit be something that I can set up to do in 2 minutes times? So I think that's the whole, the infrastructure or the architecture of habits, to say, how do you want to make it easy for yourself, because you want to win. And the more wins that you have, the more it builds your confidence, the more you start to back yourself even more, and you even take on more bigger challenge. And this, all in all, when you put it together, it starts to automate it. It starts to have a regimen and something that you do on a continual basis. And then the last bit of it, which is linked to the reward, is how can I make it satisfying? Using reinforcement, encouraging yourself, like using like a tracker to say, oh yes, it's been 4 days that I've done this continuously. I'm having a bit of a streak. And then I think the greatest thing that he also says in relation to how to make it satisfying is the idea, never miss something twice. So have you ever set up a routine to say, this is I'm doing a ketogenic diet, and then one day you got a work event, someone's birthday, and then you have that cake or you have something, and then that's just one day that you have to do. But then the natural human response in that instance is to say, oh, I don't want to do this again, because I've already kind of stacked, so what's the point? I might as well just change it. But he says, never miss something twice. So it's okay to have a misstep, it's okay to have a hiccup, but what you're telling yourself is, I'm actually going to keep at it. I can give a very good example. Like last week on Monday, I wanted to start not having carbs again. I wanted to just do that as a challenge for about 28 days, and I was successful on a Monday. Then I went to a business breakfast on a Tuesday, and then that was I slacked, and then I got into it again on Wednesday, and then on Thursday I slacked again, and then I slacked in a bunch. I'm like, I shouldn't discount that. If I have a misstep, just keep going. So this is really one of the really good books about it, where I think at a high nut, you'll always remember that for the habits that you want to implement, or for the habits that you want to stop and replace with other ones, or you want to do less of, because you're ultimately working to become a better person and become better at the things that you want to do, is always remember that there's a cue, the things that you see. Make sure that you're having things that are going to move you towards the direction of what you want to do, and remember the cravings and how to respond to them, because you may set yourself a habit, but if it doesn't satisfy these 4 things, it's the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward, you have an incomplete loop, and therefore that habit is not going to stick. And the opposite is true. So people, I hope you enjoyed this wonderful video. Don't forget to subscribe and mash the like button, and I'm going to keep on making more content like this. Hope you have a great day, and see you next time.